Welcome to the Faculty Pride podcast, brought to you by the Southeastern Louisiana University Center for Faculty Excellence. The center's mission is to facilitate the professional development of faculty in their pursuit of excellence in teaching, research, and service. To help us accomplish that mission, this podcast provides insight on teaching and technology from the faculty perspective.
Hi, everybody. This is Mary Ballard, and I am Director of the Center for Faculty Excellence at Southeastern. And we're here today with Dr. Lorett Swank, who is our Chief Student Success Officer at Southeastern. Hi, Lorett.
Hey, Mary. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it is my pleasure.
Well, we are so interested in what you are and what's going on at the center, especially during this time of transition. Would you like to start there? Just tell us about the center. I know it's expanded and what it has to offer over the last few months, especially the past year. So kick us off.
Sure. We're the Center for Student Excellence. And what we do primarily is we work with first-year students. And we handle those students. We meet them first at orientation, and we advise them and help them pick their schedules. And then we teach SC 101, which is our freshman success course. And the students that we meet during orientation enroll in that course, and it's really neat because that instructor becomes their advisor for a full year. So it's really fun because we get to develop relationships with students at the beginning of their college journey. The course is filled with what we think is lots of useful information for them to progress in their first year, because there's a big transition that happens between high school and college. So what we do is we teach them that first year in SC 101, and then we continue to advise them through their spring semester. And then we, lack of a better word, sort of deliver them to their department. So a lot happens during that time. They're changing majors, they're succeeding, they're hitting obstacles. And, we're there for them throughout that entire journey before they move on to their department. Some other things that we do at the center, we have tutoring. So tutoring is for all students at Southeastern in select subjects. Most of our students struggle more in our math and heavy sciences like the chemistries and the biologies. So we offer, I say free, but they've paid for it with their tuition, but tutoring services to help our students get through some of those really, really tough courses. Since I've been at the center, which is now I'm in my fourth year, prior to that, I taught career planning for years and advised in general studies. And in my time working in general studies, I noticed that at Southeastern, we had a gap in services for our students. I think over the last few years, we've done a real good job at front-end loading services for first-year students. From our orientation is just absolutely delightful. It's such a great experience. The SC 101 class is a great experience. Our advising model has changed. It's not course selection. It's holistic. We want to know everything about the student. How are you doing physically? How are you doing mentally? How are you doing academically? So I feel like we've done a real good job with that, and our progression and retention rates have reflected that. But what's happened is there's so much more that happens in that college journey beyond first year that we're not able to help with. So just to get a feel, we have about 3,000 students that we advise and serve in their first year. So what happens is by the time we hit that next orientation, we have to sort of clear room for that new group that's coming in, because we wouldn't be able to handle 4,000 or 5,000 students. So some students aren't quite ready to move on to their department, or some students maybe had their hopes set on nursing school and just didn't quite meet the GPA requirements. Or some students thought they had always wanted to be in a certain major, and maybe they chose that major based on other people's opinion and not their own, and they hadn't really experienced a lot of those courses yet. So so many students would find themselves lost past freshman year, and it really would break our hearts to say we can't help you. Departments weren't really equipped. The department like, well, if you're my major, I can help you, but I can't really help you explore all the other majors. So Dr. Golding and I spoke a lot about that, about how difficult it was to just let those students sort of flounder. And I would see them in general studies. They had changed majors several times, and by the time they get to their junior or senior year, they would be almost defeated and just say, I just want to try to graduate, and I've never really been able to talk to anybody. And it was just, we didn't have that layer of service. So thank goodness Southeastern, Dr. Colding, Dr. Crane have invested in our students past their first year. And so we have introduced what we're calling ACE coaches. So that stands for Academic and Career Exploration Coaches. So students that have phased out of their first year or out of our service area for the freshman advisors, it doesn't matter what their major is. It doesn't matter what their classification is. They can reach out to these ACE coaches and do some good career exploration. They can really shop different curricula, see how their credits align, see where their interests are, see where their passions are, and just kind of take a breath. And what we want that to be is a temporary holding place for them. And our ultimate goal is to get them to a department as soon as possible. Because we know that students, if they're sure of their plan, they tend to do better. So if you're sitting in organic chemistry and you're unsure that this is your plan, it's going to be pretty hard to be motivated in a class that is that hard. But if you've met with someone and you consulted with someone and you've researched it and you understand that this is your path and this is where you want to go, you're going to put in the extra time and you're going to know I'm here for a reason. So those ACE coaches just came on board in January, and I'm really, really excited because we promoted people from the freshman side. So these are advisors that have already had a feel for what happens on the first year, and they have a feel for just about every curriculum that we have at Southeastern. And so we've moved them over, and they're just now beginning to see their first students. And we're just now getting to departments to say, hey, we have this service. And what we did was on the freshman side, we started doing this. A lot of students come with a declared major, but they've really not researched that major. They just sort of checked the box kind of because we made them and, so we could figure out where they need to go during orientation. We aligned all these by focus groups. So like we have business entrepreneurship, we have healthcare and human studies, we have public safety, social concerns. So what we did, we mirrored that with our ACE coaches. So they don't have to know everything about everything, but let's say Jennifer Wisenhunt, she is healthcare and human studies. So she'll know about the nursing, the CSD, family consumer science, all those sort of related degrees. She'll know about occupations specific to them, know about alumni associated with those degrees, what the curriculum looks like. So a student could meet with her and say, I really think I'm looking more towards business. It's pretty easy because right down the hall is another ACE coach that specializes in business. So we're not bouncing people all over campus. We have them all in sort of the same place. And most of the students started at the Center for Student Excellence, so it's already kind of a home to them. So they're just kind of coming back home, kind of readjusting, and then we're sending them to their new home. So we're super excited about that. In addition to that, another population we weren't able to help a lot were our transfer students. So especially the ones that came in over 30 hours, they wouldn't have the benefit of having a freshman advisor because they're not freshmen anymore, or the SE 101 course. And in that course and with that advisor, we're teaching Southeastern. We're talking about traditions. We're talking about Moodle. We're talking about registration. We're talking about mapping out your curriculum. We're talking about, we're bringing them to major minor fairs, all that. So our transfer students traditionally just arrive here. And most of them didn't have academic holds. So they would just sort of bounce around, not have an advisor, or really feel connected to a department or to the university at all, and really didn't have anybody designated to answer those questions. So admissions said that was tough on them because they would admit them and be like, okay, good luck. And then the students would have lots of academic questions that an admissions recruiter, rightfully so, really can't answer. So we hired a transfer student coordinator. And interestingly, he worked in admissions, so he understands both sides, and he's able to really bridge that gap between admissions and the department. So he is a friendly face. He is very focused on customer service. So he's a nice welcome to our university. He can show them Moodle. He can show them how to register. He can show them all those things. So that takes that off the department. But then he can connect them to a department and to a specific person. So that's a lot that I just said, but we have so much going on, and we're just so happy and grateful to be able to extend services for our students. And I will tell you, our students are so grateful to be, because we are a big university, but we have a hometown feel. So I think that they feel the care, they feel the love that they get, and they know there's somebody looking out for them.
Absolutely. As someone who's worked at Southeastern for 25 years now, it's been really exciting for me to watch the evolution of your center. I think the strength of it, Lorett, lies in the relationships that you all form and that you build and that you nurture. Students know they've got someone to go to. I mean, the fact that a freshman has an entire year of being connected to one person, that just means so much. And I think the strength of what you're doing is in the relationships. And of course, you can't have those relationships without having great people. And I know you have a team of really great people. How many do you have? How many do you have now?
People keep asking me that question, and I don't know the answer to it, which is funny. But speaking of great people, I hire people carefully, and I look at, how does this person fit into the mix of the greater good? Because and I know everyone talks about teamwork, but for us, it's so essential because our students aren't in one place at one time. So they're constantly changing. So we have to constantly network with each other, and say, hey, what's the deal with business? When can they get into their first business class? Even though I only advise for education, because I think my student is interested in maybe changing over, so we call them hallway talks. We constantly have hallway talks, or, oh, something's wrong with the registration. This is happening right now. Your students may be getting an error message. So we have so much concentrated information about everything Southeastern has, whether it's admissions or it's registration or it's department heads or curriculum. We're just this hotbed of information, and there's someone on the hall who can answer just about any question. And you talked about relationships with each other is important, but our relationships with our department heads, with admissions, is even more important. Because I think before, when I got here, we've all seen this evolution with our university, that people kind of just did their thing, and we didn't cross over a whole lot. So I felt like we were siloed from the rest of the university. So one of the first things I did was to make sure that advisors felt comfortable picking up the phone and calling a department head and saying, hey, this course sequence isn't working. What we're finding is that this course and this course are offered at the exact same time, but they're prerequisites for each other. And department heads are genuinely appreciative because they often can't see it on a big scale in the way that we can. So we were just talking earlier before the podcast that we do a spring pilgrimage where we go and visit in person with every single department head and undergraduate coordinator. And it's much about fellowship and networking as it is about business. We talk about, what are trends you're seeing with your degree? What are students saying? And then department heads are saying, well, what are you hearing on the first year level with students? I'm like, they're struggling in this class. If we could move this class to the next semester, I think they would do so much better. And we're all in a real collaborative space to where people now are honest and we're able to share and people aren't defensive. And it's just been tremendous progress. And the ultimate result is our students benefit. So it's great.
Absolutely. It is. Well, speaking of relationships, everybody's relationship has changed drastically since this pandemic, and we've all had to transition to our remote online environments. How have things changed for you at the center and your team? What are some things that you're doing to continue with the relationships that you have with students? How's it working for you?
This is going to sound totally crazy, but it has been so exciting. It's been invigorating. It's been exciting. We, like I said, when I hire people, I hire very creative, out-of-the-box thinkers who are able to work in a fast-paced environment because we are constantly changing. And that's one thing with my leadership. I'm like, if you're not good with change, because I always think something can be better. I always think there's a system that can be improved. There's just always a better way that we can do something. So what we've been doing in spring, we teach 6 classes in the fall, and then we only teach 1 or 2 in the spring because we don't have as many first-year students that come in for that second semester. So what we do is we spend all of spring doing professional development. and we had just hired 3 new advisors. So it was a great time to get back to basics and say, okay, let's go through the whole Google suite. Let's look at all these great bells and whistles and how can it make our life better. Let's everybody start sharing documents via Google. Let's figure out this Google Meet thing. Let's figure out how can students schedule on our calendar without actually calling the office? How can we be more efficient? How can we make information more easily available to our students? So literally every single week, almost twice a week, we have had an hour-long session. And what was neat, we had different people within our team who were experts at certain things that would present to the rest of the group. So I joked in an article that we were training for the pandemic unknowingly this entire semester. We had long ago established a common Moodle shell for all of our SE 101 classes. And we go through each semester and map out week by week what's right time, right place delivery for our first year students. And we all this is the best time to talk about study skills. This is the best time to talk about changing major. So we already had all that mapped out. I also insisted that my team be very proficient with Moodle and very proficient with technology prior to us even going to the house. So when we did, our biggest transition was people's home technology, getting that up to speed. We ordered cameras very quickly, and in the days leading up, I'm making this sound very dramatic, but in the days leading up to us going to the house, I was like, everyone has to be Google Meet proficient by Wednesday. So on the Monday before, we all practiced in the office. We all had a Google meeting where everybody got to practice the technology. Some people were, I don't want to be on camera. I'm like, we have to, because that personal connection with our students is so important. And I don't think advising by phone just does it. I think you need to see people. They need to see you. Just like when you're nodding your head and, affirming what someone's saying, or you can look at a student and see that they're struggling. I think all of those are really, really important. So we did it. Everybody was able to do it. And so we went on to the house, and I was talking about the hallway talks that we normally have. I was wondering, how can we continue to be in touch as much as we are during a work day? So what we have are Google Meet meetings. We call them check-in meetings, 8:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the afternoon. The 3:30 morning is like, what's going on? We think any big issues happening. Somebody has a funny story to share, or something that they've, been seeing that, an issue with students. And then we sort of limit the emails during the day, and then we have a bigger call at 3:30. Here's what's happening. Here's what we're seeing. Here's what we need to watch out for. We're also encouraging each other. Some people are having more stressful days than others, because we're still advising. I think I checked this morning, since we went to the house, we've advised 926 students via Google Meet, which is pretty impressive, and very few issues. And then during the day for our kind of one-on-one chatter, we have something called ICQ, which is an instant message. So we'll instant message more immediate things. We'll email things that are more content, and then we'll use our check-in calls as kind of conversation to talk about things. So it's been great. I'm loving all of this. Our tutoring's all online, which will continue on. Which I think all of this has forced us to do things that we've had on our to-do list for a really long time. With training and technology and professional development. And I just, if there's a silver lining here, it's that we have been forced to be innovative. And I think all of this will carry over to our everyday job.
That's great. Look, I know you and your team have your finger on the pulse of what's going on with our students out there. Are there any major issues that they're facing right now that faculty can be involved with and help with that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I know, I love freshmen. I really do. It's, if you think about, I always remind my advisors, think back to when you were 18. Think about what stressed you out. Think what overwhelmed you. It was everything. And I don't think that our students today, they are unique, but it's the same, a lot of the same issues that we experienced when we were younger. Now a normal first year transition on top of a huge transition to everything going online. One of the main reasons our first year students, I'll say, become on probation is because of time management issues. So we've created the biggest time management almost catastrophe for our first year student by putting all of this online. And I think that sometimes, and I know faculty have been understandably so focused on how to deliver their content in the best way possible, and they've not had a heads up and been able to plan this. And I know most faculty like to plan a lot and like to be confident, and they've not been able to do either. They're not confident using new systems. They've not been able to plan to deliver this. This has all happened overnight. So I know they are stressed, and if they are stressed out and students can feel that, it amplifies what's already happening in their lives. So it's sort of a tough scenario all around. I think it's settling in a little bit. I think it's becoming a little more normal for students. I think faculty are listening to feedback from students. So that first round of tests, some went well, some didn't. I think that the fact that we've created those grade adjustments have relaxed students a good bit, because they know if this is not my best performing semester, I'm able to change some things at the end that will help me not destroy my GPA or help me progress and things like that. So I'm not sure that answered the question. That's just sort of what I'm seeing on my end. But I just think it's a tough time for everyone. And I think we're all very much doing the best that we can.
I'm glad you said that, because faculty and students that did not plan to be in an online environment this semester, this is very, very different. And it is very, very stressful for a lot of people. And I think the fact that we're all willing to go the extra mile with everybody, it's just so important. It's so important right now that we understand that there are people out there who don't have the technology that they need. And even if they have a computer at home, they may not have the kind of internet connection that allows them to download things quickly. So they're trying to take an exam, a 50-minute exam, and it's taking 20 or 30 minutes just to get into the computer and to get the thing downloaded and to do what they need to do. And so they get timed out. There are all these little nuances that everybody's facing. And I'm just really proud of the Southeastern family and how everybody's pulled together to make it work for everybody. I think it's just admirable that we've been able to pull together like we have.
I think so too. And then, another layer on to this is that people are working home with their babies in their lap. I have advisors who have a 2-year-old. They're advising students with a baby in the lap, and they're trying to teach a class. And, I admire our working parents who have just made this work. And we're all on top of each other. And, and the advisor I'm thinking about has 2 very small children, and she still comes on the call with a smile every day and is like, "Oh no, today was good." And I'm like, "Oh girl, I know it was tough." And I think a lot of people are smiling, getting through it. And I know the students do really, really appreciate that.
Yes. Well, I know you're really busy, and I know you need to get back to work, and I don't want to eat up too much of your time, but if you could only stress one thing to our faculty right now, and that might be hard, but if you could pick out one thing in terms of helping our students be successful during this, what are we calling it, an unprecedented time, what would that be?
And this is going to be the counselor in me that's going to come out, is I think faculty need to make sure that they're taking care of themselves. I think spiritually, mentally, physically, because if they're not taking care of themselves, it's going to be hard to serve our students. So I think they need to give themselves permission to self-care, so that next time a student calls or emails panicked, that they're able to be in the right, mental frame to say, okay, let me back up. I can appreciate why they're stressed out. I can appreciate why they're panicked, and let me respond accordingly. And then if you're feeling good about yourself, you can really have compassion for people, when they're struggling in a difficult spot. So I'd say self-care.
I think that's excellent advice. And I hope that you're following it as well. And
I am. I am, and having my people as well.
That is great. Well, thank you, Lorett, so much for taking the time to do this for us. We really, really appreciate it. And thanks to all of you who are listening. If there is anything we can help you with at the center, please reach out. Our email address is center@southeastern.edu. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Faculty Pride Podcast. If you would like more information on the resources available to Southeastern faculty through the Center for Faculty Excellence, visit our website at southeastern.edu/admin/CFE. You can also stop by the center or utilize our lab by visiting us in Mims Hall. The link to the website and any resources discussed in this episode can be found in the notes section of the podcast.